So what happened in the real estate market this last week up here in North Florida, specifically the Jacksonville metro area? Well, for one thing, pending sales actually dropped. So did home sales drop. But we're in the spring rush. Why is this happening? Hey, you know what? Tonight I'm going to be covering a whole lot of information. This is some of what I go over. These are the questions I'll be answering tonight. What is the current active listings? How many sold in the last 7 days? How many homes are under contract right now? How many new homes sold in the last 7 days? What is the current active new home listings? How many active listings are foreclosures right now? How did people pay for these homes? What percentage of homes sold for under list, at list, and above list, and much, much more. Hey, you know what? I'm just a regular guy who happens to be a real estate agent up here in North Florida, and because of that I have access to the MLS system, which I share with you every week. And I'm going to go into the back end and we're going to look at these numbers, put them all together for you. All right, let's start off with the active listings in the Northeast Florida MLS. Okay, here we are in the back end of Northeast Florida MLS, and what we're going to be looking at is those active listings. And let's see what that number is. Now, the active listings is basically your inventory. And that number is 7,921. All right, next we're going to look at what sold in the last 7 days. And that number is 625. Next, I'm going to take a look at, okay, how many are under contract with contingencies, okay? Currently under contract with contingencies, and those can be a contingency waiting for an inspection, appraisal, or any number of things. Okay, that number is 1,459. Next, we're going to look at how many that were under contract with contingencies went pending in the last 7 days. That number is, excuse me, that number is 430, and when you add up that and under contract, that gives you total of the total under contract. Next, we're going to take a look how many people withdrew their listings in the last 7 days. That number is 79, and these people, the homes are still active listings, they just can't be shown at the time. Okay, next we're going to take a look at how many expired in the last 7 days. That number is 239. Those are homes that did not sell and they are off the market. Next, we're going to take a look and see what those new homes did. How many new homes sold in the last 7 days? Out of all the homes sold, 206 were new construction homes. All right, let's see what their inventory is. How many are active? This is out of the active listings. How many are new homes? That is 1,911. That is the inventory. Okay, next we're going to take a look and see how many condos are in active status. How many of those? That is 972. So out of the active listings, 972 are condominiums. All right, next, how many condominiums sold in the last 7 days? That number is 36. Okay, next thing we're going to do is take a look and see how many are in that are active listings are in foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, and short sale status. So let's look at see how many are in the foreclosure status. That number is 293. Next, we're going to see and look at see how many are in pre-foreclosure status. That number is 20, and the next thing we'll look at how many are in short sale status. That number is 28. All right, now I'm going to take all that information that we got, I put it into an Excel spreadsheet, okay? Now, at first when it comes out, it's a messy Excel spreadsheet right from the MLS, and then I clean it up and put it into my own spreadsheet, which makes it easier for you to look at and to follow from these past weeks so we can look for those trends and see if we can catch them. While all those numbers are crunching out, right now let's see what those scary interest rates did over the last week. All right, here we are looking at the interest rates at the 30-year fixed, and last week we ended up at 6.91. We had some up arrows this week, and we ended up at 6.99, so it did tick up, and you can see it went over 7 during the week. Next, let's look at those FHA rates because they're generally lower. Here we are looking at the FHA. Last week we were at 6.39. Same arrows jumping up to end at 6.44, okay? Didn't quite hit 6.5 during the week though. And let's take a look at those VA rates. And your VA last week, 6.41, ended up at 6.45, followed the same trend with arrows. However, it did breach the 6.5% during the week. You know, I saw some reading, and I don't remember whether it was Forbes or something like that. They're talking about, you know, how everyone thought that the rates were coming down starting in March. We're going to, there's going to be 3 cuts, 4 cuts. Hasn't happened yet, right? But I saw something where they're predicting this summer that the rates are going to start coming down. That they're probably going to hold steady right now, but then during the summer they may start to come down. So we'll see. We'll see what that does with, you know, with the buyers. You know, are they going to be coming out in force? Okay. Hey, next is where I look at these 4 series of charts. Okay, the price. Now this is Duval County, basically the Jacksonville area only. Okay, even though I do all of Northeast Florida with that MLS, these stats are basically the Jacksonville area. Okay, now it'll be like this. Price per square foot, you know, we've got like the inventory, we look at days on the market, look at the median price. That price per square foot has been flat, I think, for like 2 or 3 months, okay? Steady like that. We're looking for an indication. Is it going to go down? Is it going to go up? Is that because we've been seeing the median price going up, but the square footage has been holding steady? So let's see what it did. Let's take a look at those charts right now. All right, here we are, and oh, this isn't what everyone wanted to see. After all that decline, okay, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 weeks steady, it went up. All right, let's take a look and see what that, look back and what it looks like when you're looking at the chart from 1 year. There's that 1 year, take a look at it, and oh my gosh, oh boy. And then we'll take a look at it from the 3-year standpoint. Holy cow. All right, now let's look at that inventory. And as we can see, it's strange. We've been seeing the inventory going up all through Northeast Florida, but just this here's just Jacksonville only out of it. See, because the Northeast Florida MLS takes St. Johns County, Flagler, all that, which has St. Augustine and Palm Coast in it. But this here, we're seeing the Jacksonville inventory has been dropping, so this thing's been picking up. We'll take a look at that going back 1 year, and then we'll take a look at that 3-year chart. All right, next we're going to take a look at the median price. All right, here we see that median price is still rising, okay? It's still going up, and that goes along with that price per square foot. We were wondering if that price per square foot is going to increase when we saw this. See the median price what we were looking at when you look at the chart from 1 year back, and then we'll take a look at that chart from 3 years back. All right, next let's take a look at those days on the market, and the days on the market continues to drop, okay? So what happens? Price is going up, days on the market dropping. That generally means multiple offers, and that means that the market is going in that other direction. All right, it's not, I'm not seeing a crash, okay? All right, now it's time to put everything into those Excel spreadsheets that I use, because that takes in all that numbers we just saw, but I take out a lot more data from what was exported from the MLS, from those sold numbers, okay? So let's take a look at those charts right now. All right, here we are. We see season 2, week 47, okay, here of Show Bubble Watch. All right, here we are at the top here. Now these columns are all in yellow. Those are the current weeks as we go through, for those of you that are new to the show. And you'll see this is this week right here, 47. So we'll look at the active listings was 7,921. And then what we do is compare it with everything in this column with the previous week. So you see week 46 and week 45 there, striped in yellow also. Notice how that inventory, okay, last week it did dip a little bit, and now it jumped up some, okay? And then the white column next to it is actually your last year at this time, week 47 last year, a year ago, and that YOY shows the percentage of change. All right, so this is why I love these charts, and I love how I do this, because I'm pulling the real numbers every week and showing you it so we can really track it. All right, now we're looking at the sales, 625, so that has dropped some, okay? It's up from a couple weeks ago, but it is less than last year, okay, down 4%. The amount active under contract, 1,459, okay, that fell from last week, okay? It's up from last year though. 430 is the pending. That also is down, so that our total under contract, 1,889, is down from last week. So we did see it start to drop. Okay, the amount that were withdrawn, 79, hasn't changed much over the several weeks. This was the surprise here, expired. 239 expired, okay? Those are homes that did not sell and went off the market. So what's going on here? All right, is it that, okay, there's just a slowdown and some of these people that have been on the market for a while just expired? We don't know. See, a listing expired, your listing contract can vary. A lot of people have this misconception that, okay, a listing's 6 months, because a lot of people have done that, 6 months contracts. I do whatever. I usually try to give us like a minimum of 3 months if I can. Sometimes you'll get someone that wants it less, and I tell, it all depends on the situation. If they're going to price it really low to generate a lot of activity, then that's okay, but sometimes you need that. So some of these could have been on the market for a month, 2 months, 3 months, who knows, whatever that is, and they expire. But I think, because I've seen this, a lot of these sellers still have the houses priced too high, okay, for the market, okay? Especially when you can get some new ones that you don't have to do anything to, maybe for a comparable price, okay, that don't need any repairs. All right, I don't know, we just got to keep track of this. All right, let's see what those new homes did. All right, new home sales, 206. That also dropped, okay, from last week's 221. Still above last year's. The inventory, 1,911. And right down here, this is one I really like to watch, the percentage of homes sold that are new. And again, we're strong, okay? A third of the homes sold right here, 32.96%. That last week, it's down just a little bit from last week, but it's still up there, a third of the homes. All right, now let's take a look at what those condos did. Okay, the condominiums, the active condos, 972, so that's up from the 965. Condos sold, up 1, okay? So we have one more condo sold over the week, up to 36. The percentage of actives that are condos is still holding that in that 12% range. All right, how do people pay for these homes? All right, here we look at week 47. Here we are. Cash, 24%, so 1/4 still paying with cash. Conventional mortgage jumped to 45%. FHA dropped to 16. VA stayed steady at 14. Others dropped 1 to 1%. All right, now those foreclosure numbers. Here we are, 293. The foreclosures continue to go up. Pre-foreclosures also going up, and short sales jumped too, for a total of 341. So that actually is a pretty good jump there in this week. So we are seeing the foreclosures going up, and from what I've been reading, that Florida is leading the country in the foreclosures at this time. People going, into foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, and short sale status and all that, that's people having trouble, obviously, making payments, okay? Now, what's causing them to make payments? Well, it's not just the housing, okay? They got into that, but they probably, when they got their house, a couple of years ago or so, their income hasn't gone up much, but everything else has. So just general inflation is screwing, property owners, with their homes. So just the fact that now they've got to spend, another like $10,000 a year more on groceries or gas and everything else, or to get their car fixed or something fixed at home, takes out of that monthly budget to pay for the house. Okay, so we may be seeing an effect from just this inflation that we've had over these last 2 or 3 years. Okay, so we've got to really watch these foreclosure things, see what happens. If the inflation comes down and wages go up, okay, will that help? We don't know, we'll have to see. All right, let's look at the rest of these numbers. Okay, next thing I take a look at here is the percentage of homes that sold for $500,000 and up, and that is 31% of the homes. So almost a third of the homes sold, you know, we hit that. Okay, let's move this chart out a little bit so we can see some of the previous weeks. And see, that's at a high, okay? When you look at these past weeks, that's actually at a high. All right, homes that sold under list, 72%. It's been pretty steady like that for the last few weeks. Homes that sold at list, 17%, about the same. And homes that sold above list actually dropped this week, but it fluctuates around that 10% or so range. Okay. All right, next we're going to take a look at the different price brackets. Okay, here what I look at is the amount of homes that sold 500 above. Right there we knew it was 31. But homes in the 400, 14% of all the homes sold were in the 400 range. 27% of the homes sold were in the 300s. 19% of the homes sold were in the 200 range. And those below 200 were 9%. Now, something that I do, okay, I started doing last week, is I want to show you, okay, we'll look at the new homes because I see so many new homes, 500,000, 600,000, million, all that being sold. I get the email notifications. So what I wanted to do was start seeing, okay, how many of the total homes sold are 500,000 above? How many are in the 300s, 400s? So let's take a look at this week's numbers. All right, as you see right here, we had 206 total new sales. 42 of those were 500 and above, 44 were in the 400 range, 66 of them were in the 300s. So the sweet spot continues to be in the 300s, okay? Now, let's see, 42 were in the 200 range. Those are generally, like I say, going to be probably things like your D.R. Horton type of townhomes, and those below 200 are 12. All right, next we look at the new construction numbers, and we see 73% of those sold under list, 17% sold at list, and 10% sold above list. So that number has dropped a little bit over the last few weeks of those that sold above list. But that homes under list has, you know, fluctuated some, but has gone up a little bit over the last couple of weeks, although this about the same as last week. All right, the next thing I do is what is called MLS Advantage. Now, what we've been looking at is the Northeast Florida MLS. So what I do is there is a thing called MLS Advantage that takes in all these other smaller MLS boards that are in this Jacksonville metro area all over, because a lot of these other areas, say like these other counties, they have their own little MLS boards, which is a lot smaller, but everyone cross sells, okay? So sometimes, you know, the numbers come over, you know, they come over into Northeast Florida, and also I cross sell into their area also. So I put this up with the sold number, but I also break it down by county so we can see the amount of solds by county over the big picture over this. It's basically a 9-county region for this Jacksonville metro area. All right, let's take a look at MLS Advantage. Okay, here we are in the MLS Advantage. And right here we've got our 9 counties: Baker, Union, Bradford, Clay, Nassau, Duval, St. John's, Flagler, and Putnam. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit that search button and then see what those numbers are, what they come out to be. That number is 918. Okay, so when we put that into a chart, we break it down by counties. You can see Baker there had 5, so they were jumped up from last week's 1. Union at 2, Bradford doubled to 8. Clay County came up a little bit, 75. Nassau 86. Duval County actually dropped, 296. St. John's also came up at 280. Flagler dropped to 144. Putnam dropped to 22. So you see we had, even though overall sales dropped, okay, 918 versus 948 last week, some counties actually went up and then some went down. So we have kind of a mixed bag there. Okay, next I got is the question of the week. All right, now this one here is actually an email that was sent to me by someone out there in Bubble Watch Nation wanting to know about the insurance rates here in Northeast Florida compared to, like, you know, what's going on. Is there a difference basically, you know, between like different areas of Florida? How is Northeast Florida? What's going on with it, you know, to the numbers? Well, this is, it's very complicated, okay, right now. Because first of all, I think last year something like 30 insurance companies bailed out of Florida. However, some others came in. Now, Citizens is the state pool, okay, that you get dropped into if you can't get insurance elsewhere, or I think if the insurance goes up over a certain amount, percentage or something like that, then you might be able to get into Citizens. All right, but what they're trying to do is take people out of Citizens, so some new companies have come in. However, a lot don't. Now, as far as what it goes through, hold on a second. And a lot of talking. All right. Here, so let's say in Northeast Florida, your insurance is going to vary if you're basically, they like to use I-95 as that, marker, okay? So if you're more towards the coast, which is east of I-95, your insurance rates are going to be higher, okay, than if you're inland. So some people, sometimes, we get a lot of people want to be in a rural area or an area where they want more acreage or something like that for land and not in the development. Well, their insurance may be a little less. Also, if you got a new home versus an older home, well, hold on, we got a call. Let me kill that. Forgot to silence my phone. All right, but if you've got a new construction home, generally because everything's newer, it's all built, then your rates could be a little bit less also versus something at an older home, where, like, say the roof is on the edge of the lifespan, or they even look at now the air conditioning, your electrical stuff like that. I mean, they all put it into the water heater, the age of it. All this gets factored into these rates. Now, up here is generally cheaper than, say, South Florida. So there is territorial changes within Florida themselves. And I want you to look at this chart. Okay, now this is a little bit dated because things have happened so fast, but it gives you an idea. What hasn't changed is the difference between different areas, okay? So say, like, now what they were basing it on was an average dwelling coverage, say over here on the right, 250,000, okay? I know we're not there now and all that, but I'm just saying use this for comparison, okay? Okay, so say everything is like, times 50% of these rates. All right, Jacksonville, it said 1,572, say, was your annual premium there for dwelling coverage, okay? It doesn't count other things, okay? Now, because you're going to add on a lot of other stuff to that. It's not just dwelling, okay? But Jacksonville, 1,500. Now take an area, say, like, look at Tampa. Okay, we're just a little bit above that. Tallahassee, about the same. Okay, Orlando, close to it. But the big difference is South Florida. Look at Miami, 3,460. Look at here, Hialeah, which is also in the Miami area, 5,175, the difference, okay? You got Coral Springs and all. Now, and then Gainesville's up here. So this gives you an idea. You can see that there is a difference territory, that up here in North Florida, we are generally cheaper than other parts of the state. Now, that being said, what goes into the mix? Say Hurricane Ian, when it came through and wiped out Fort Myers and stuff. A lot of there's so much damage. They put these models together, so I'm telling you, where these hurricanes come and you get this direct impact from a Cat 4 or 5 or something, the risk factor is going to be up. Up here where we're at, we just haven't had that much there. Now you can also get flooding, also. Now that's another thing. We go into the flood insurance and stuff, okay? That matters, okay, where you're at. And if you haven't seen it, I do have a video. In fact, I'm going to put up a box up in the corner here at the end of this video that you can click on, where I talk about flood zones in Florida, okay? Because that's going to matter on your insurance too. And it's just like some people think because you're on the river or on a lake that you got to have flood insurance. Not necessarily true, okay? And I show that in that video. So you put in all these factors. In general, yes, North Florida up here, Northeast Florida, is easier on insurance than others. But those of us that have been living here have been used to, like, $1,200 a year, $1,500 a year, and now we're paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year. Yes, it is a shock, okay? It's what happens. So it's constantly changing. As more carriers come in and stuff like that, then it can reduce it. But for right now, we're seeing that. Also, inflation has a lot to do with it. So Northeast Florida, yeah, is better than South Florida, definitely. for a lot of reasons, okay? Insurance is one of them. So geographically, yes, but it depends on where you're living up here in Northeast Florida on those rates too. All right, now let's get to those houses of the week, and that's where I show a house that sold below list and a house that sold above list and talk a little bit about it. Let's check them out. All right, here we are looking at, this is the one that sold below list price, and we see it was in St. Johns County, okay? Built in 1985, 2,372 square feet. It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. Okay, let's take a look at the history to see what they listed it for and what they ended up selling it for. Okay, here we see that they put it on the market for $935,000. Okay, it was on the market for 79 days. All right, over this time they lowered the price a couple of times. When they got down to $850,000, they ended up taking an offer for $805,000. Okay, now something I want to show you. You know, I show that chart, price per square foot. Okay, the average price per square foot. And look at how much this sold for price per square foot, okay? The close price was $339.38 per square foot is what this home sold for, even at that reduced price. All right, let's see what they paid for it. Okay, back in 2006, they bought this house for $500,000. Now keep in mind, 2006, that 2005, 2006 era, prices were going through the roof. Crazy prices, okay? I mean, you can even see a difference here where this house was sold. Look at that, even in 2006, the difference between $362 and then $500, what they paid for it. Everything was going crazy. People thought everything was going to the moon, nothing was coming down. But we know what happened, okay, a year and a half later, okay, that 2008 came around, all right? And then, of course, 2008 to 2010 was where everything, you know, bottomed out and we had a total disaster. All right, so keep in mind, they paid $500 back then at that time frame, okay? Let's look at an appreciation calculator. Okay, here we look at the appreciation calculator. We see that they paid $500, sold it for $805, had it for 17.39 years. Only 2.78%, so that is low, okay? We generally like to see 5 to 6 was the norm. So a couple of factors here. One, they bought it in a high time, and then two, okay, right now when things have dropped some, even though prices are higher than what they were like in 2001 for homes, things have gone down some. But think about this. If they paid $500, if you were to get a normal 5 to 6%, then that should have sold for, they probably had figuring they were going to get like, you know, near $900,000 for it would have been about right. Okay, let's look at that house that paid for above. Okay, this house here was in Clay County. Built in 1985, 1,326 square feet. Okay, it's a 3-2. I see Fleming Island there, which is, you know, a pretty desirable area, okay, for people in Clay County. All right, now let's take a look at the history on that and see what they were asking for and what they ended up getting. All right, this one here went on the market there, $320,000. Was on the market for 14 days, 2 weeks, ended up taking an offer of $336,100, okay? Now we do see they had an open house there, okay? At about 9 days in. It's possible that from that open house they generated the interest to get there because they did end up in a multiple offer situation. As you can see right here, they've got in their remarks, it says multiple offers, highest and best by 5 p.m. on a certain date, okay? All right, let's take a look and see what these people paid for it. All right, back in 2007, okay, they paid $185,000, okay? Now, this is kind of a strange one. Okay, you look at 2005 when everything was going up, it was $136 that somebody paid. That's what they bought it, you know, when it was sold and to somebody else, and these people bought it for $185 in 2007 when actually, you know, things were just about, you know, to go down. I guess it really just didn't hit the skids yet. So they bought it just before that at $185. All right, let's see what they look like in an appreciation calculator. And when we look at theirs, based on what they paid and what they sold it for there, 16.7 years, they were just under 4% per year, so they were a little less. So they probably could have got a little more for the house, maybe, maybe not. You know, with the multiple offers, they were happy with what they got, and we're checking out with it. But you can see that the appreciation did go down. So was it a combination of when they bought it and also when they're selling it in this time of corrections? We'll take a look here at their price per square foot. They sold it for $253 a square foot. That was the closing price. So as you can see, okay, I love showing these houses. What really is dramatic is when I'm showing you like these price per square foots, when we look at those price per square foots in that chart, you know, that Jacksonville, you know, well, let's take a quick look at that. You know, when we look at that price per square foot, we see there it's jumped up to $194, okay? But as you can see, these houses here that we're selling, even the one below list was over 300 a square foot. This one over 200 a square foot. So now those weren't in the Jacksonville area, okay? So they were in, you know, in other counties. All right, but still, I mean, it just shows the difference, okay? So, you know, and look at the one there, like over $100,000 below and stuff. I mean, so everything out there, it all depends on where you're buying and what you're buying, okay? You know, and if there's multiple offers, we're starting to see those now. So what's going to happen? So now you've got to make that decision, okay, as a buyer. Are you going to sit out and wait it out and go with the group that says everything's going to go down and crash and everything's going to be back at 2019 prices, which I don't see happening, but if they do, I'll be reporting it? Or are you going to be with the group that's saying, you know what, if I can afford to get into something now, maybe I'll get into it now because I'll have something, or you need it, okay? That's up to you to decide. I just give you these numbers every week. Hey, until week 48, I'm out of here.